What if Kaido replaced Madara during the 4th Great Ninja War and had to fight the 5 Kage, aka the 5 leaders of the Great Ninja World instead of the 5 supernovas? For this video, we will be using the 5 Kage specifically in the fight with Madara, while we will be taking the Kaido that fights on Onigashima. So similar to Madara's case, he'll probably start off in his base form and go up from there. This matchup was not only requested to me on a live stream, which if you guys want to go and catch those, feel free to become a member, but it kind of piqued my interest because not only did the 5 Kage fight a Madara who was holding back the whole time, but along with the fact that even Kaido's loss is kind of scuffed just because the main character like lost 4 times before he actually beat him with the help of like the whole cast. So I figured why not take Kaido and the 5 Kage, 2 groups who were set up for failure, and see how they would do in comparison to one another, because unlike Madara who has a lot of hacks and abilities, Kaido's just kind of a meathead, and so it'd be cool to see if Kaido's raw power would be enough to overpower the 5 Kage, or if their teamwork is enough to actually put down the world's strongest creature. I don't think I need to yap any longer about this matchup, so without further ado, let's just break down the world's strongest creature first and see if he can solo the 5 Kage. Kaido throughout the series has been established to be the world's strongest creature, with even statements regarding him to be the strongest pirate alive. Now, people will take this and say that Kaido is just straight up top 1 and nobody can beat him, therefore he'd be above the yonko, but I don't think it's really that simple. You see, in One Piece, there's a clear distinction in man and creature, with Whitebeard being portrayed to be the strongest man and pirate, which Kaido is both a man and a pirate. That's why they call Kaido the world's strongest creature and not the world's strongest man. Regardless of who you think is stronger though, Kaido should just be on the tier of Shanks and Old Whitebeard, who specifically was stated to have power capable of destroying the world, which is pretty consistent. There are even calculations, which I know a lot of people don't like using, but this actually does back up Whitebeard and even pre-timeskip Blackbeard, who are shifting tectonic plates and are capable of generating enough force to destroy multiple continents on the low end. Depending on what you think of the One Piece world size as well, with calculations having it being bigger than Earth and others saying that it's bigger than our sun, you could make the argument for Kaido being star level, but I genuinely believe that it's more consistent to say he's in that multi-continental to planetary range, especially considering Luffy used a moon level punch to put down a Kaido who literally took like 30 plus attacks that hit his internal organs and was drinking the whole time fighting. So regardless of where you think the One Piece high tiers are at, bare minimum they are exceeding that multi-continental tier. And if you think Kaido is top 1 and you don't agree with Whitebeard being stronger, then it just drives the scaling even further for Kaido for me. So honestly, you're making my job easier. I was just giving my own 2 cents on the inverse perspective, but who cares what I have to say, right? Now, I don't think I need to go into Kaido's durability, since it should just be way higher than his AP, considering the amount of attacks he was taking the entire time. But to be fair, this isn't pure durability. Endurance does play a factor into this, but regardless, he should just be able to take what he could dish out. And so now we can move on to speed, which speed in One Piece is pretty easy to break down, all things considered. Numerous characters throughout the series can either shoot light or just dodge it at ridiculous speeds. Luffy in base after the time skip is able to do this by Sabaody, with him not only having his gear forms to stack on top of this, but he manages to power creep his gear force self in base twice. First, he did this in Whole Cake against Katakuri, and then a second time in Wano against Kaido. This would baseline mean Luffy's base is already moving multiple times the speed of light, and some of you may point out that, oh well, Kizaru has the light fruit and he's a top tier, so One Piece characters are barely light speed. To that, I would just say that Kizaru is clearly someone who's experienced with this fruit, and you do get stronger when you train with your devil fruit, meaning it's more than possible to just say that Kizaru is moving faster than light and isn't just capped at light speed, when even slower characters in pre-time skip were already weaving or shooting light. So basically, any of your favorite characters within the series are more than likely light speed, and Kaido literally blitzes Luffy so hard that he couldn't even react to him with future sight, and this was base Kaido, mind you. So this would have to mean Kaido baseline should have FTL combat and reaction speeds, with him being faster in his transformation, and his reaction speed is probably faster just because of the fact that he has future sight. And speaking of, we can now talk about Kaido's forms and abilities. His dragon form allows him to not only breathe fire, but it can cause natural disasters such as hurricanes and thunderstorms. He can also set himself on fire and use it as some kind of armor. This state of Kaido ended up being so powerful that even Gear 5 Luffy was having a hard time contending with the heat, and even after Luffy smacks him into a volcano, it's still not confirmed or not if Kaido is alive. So for all all we know, he could just be bathing in the lava pool. He also has his hybrid form as well, which is more suited for one-on-one combat. He has mastery of all 3 types of Haki, meaning he can bypass defenses along with seeing into the future, but I think the most worthy thing to know for Kaido is his ridiculous endurance. Not only did he survive his cells/internal organs being directly targeted at him, whether it be through shockwaves, gamma knife, Enma, Kaido is just taking all of those hits. And like I mentioned earlier, if it's actually confirmed that Kaido's alive, he might just be actually chilling in magma. And it honestly makes sense, since after taking shockwave, slashes, punches, puncture, and blunt force wounds, along with before even being in this gauntlet, he was just trying every way to kill himself, and there was just nothing. There was nothing. With his Haki, he's able to overpower a lot of hacks-based abilities. However, this only happens if the user is a lot stronger than the other. So things like elemental-based ninjutsu is probably not going to be the most effective, and really, if the 5 Kage aren't ridiculously above Kaido, their best shot is probably particle style, which, I'm not gonna lie, even with the hacks and resistances Haki gives you, Kaido is not walking away unscathed from this jutsu. But let's see where the 5 Kage actually scale in comparison to the world's strongest creature. Now, the 5 Kage with their teamwork were kinda a threat to individuals like Reanimated Madara. We even see 2 out of these 5 Kage, that being Ohnoki and Gaara, being capable of stopping his planetary devastation. The amount of force needed for Madara to generate this fat meteor along with the speed it's moving at comes out to around Multi Continental. And Gaara and Ohnoki with the combined effort are able to survive this. Tsunade and the Raikage, unlike Ohnoki as well, are just physical beasts, so they'd probably be able to survive similar levels of energy. Especially when you consider Tsunade, who's actually broken through the susanoo, along with the Raikage, who himself is often compared to the 8-tails, who is able to produce similar levels of energy. And even Mei, who is the weakest of the 5 Kage by far, and honestly is kinda ass, she's able to at least put out Madara's fire style. We've also seen much weaker characters like a fatigued Pain exert continental levels of power, so to say that the Kage aren't on this tier by this point is kinda silly. However, I can't say they are confidently scaling in this tier. Considering Madara was generally playing with his food, and we can only go off of the holding back Madara's feats or characters who are weaker that the Kage should scale to. Out of everyone though, I'll say Mei definitely has the most loose scaling of this tier of AP. I am not confident to say that Mei can bust a continent or scales to multi-continental in general, and I'm only saying she's here just because of the other Kage as well being here. So my question is, who invited Mei? Anyway, as far as speed goes, everyone here should easily be reaching light speed. Yes, even you, Mei. The Raikage gets compared to light, but I know there are contentions with this statement since it's used as a simile, but even characters like Gaara and Ohnoki are able to react and even assist the KCM1 or higher echelon of characters. And as we know, KCM1 Naruto just blitzed the unk out of the Raikage. And even characters like Darui, who are shooting light-based lasers, are being reacted to or blocked by a weakened Sasuke. So bare minimum, these guys should be baseline light speed, with characters like Ohnoki, maybe lightweight Raikage, and Gaara being much faster. And now we can talk about their abilities, since I already was kind of doing that throughout the other sections. But as I mentioned, the primary win con here is Ohnoki's particle style, which just straight up turns you into dust. Kaido, even despite having Haki and being portrayed to be OP, we've never seen someone in One Piece just erase things on an atomic level, let alone a person being erased on an atomic level and coming back from it. If Kaido has the speed advantage and is able to react to Ohnoki's particle style, we do have Gaara's sand paralysis, which could allow him or the group in general to just tag Kaido since the sand slows you down, allowing the Raikage and Tsunade to hit him with heavy blows amped by both chakra and lightning. Tsunade as well, with her 100 healings, is practically immortal for the limited amount of time she can use it for, which gives her cracked regeneration, and Mei can shoot water, steam, and like lava. I'm sorry I'm coming off as a Mei hater in this video, but my god bro, she sucks. Who invited her? Anyway, Ohnoki with his particle style can either make the group lighter so that it's harder for Kaido to hit them, or heavier so that the blows do more damage. If the 5 leaders of the world manage to band together and lock in just like how they did with Madara, regardless of the outcome, it's going to be very difficult for Kaido to put them down. But now we can get into the battle scenario and see who truly comes out on top. We see Kaido full on Aerosmith diving into the ground like he's Kratos, attempting to try and end his own life. As he tries this though, he'd feel nothing but disappointment knowing that the impact from the fall did absolutely nothing. As he gets up, he'd see none other than the 5 leaders that run the shinobi world together, ready to fight him. He'd comment on how these aren't the supernovas and that he might be a little drunk, before then deciding to entertain himself while he's here. He'd throw a base Thunder Bagua at the group before Raikage and Tsunade both intercept and push him back, similar to what they did to Madara in canon. The two forces then get their footing and they proceed to clash once again. Now, I feel Kaido, unlike Madara, is not the most calculating, so this could allow the 5 Kage to get away with a lot more stuff that they attempted on Madara, but that just didn't work. However, this is acknowledging that Kaido is kind of just being Kaido and isn't taking things very seriously. If I'm being honest, I wouldn't be surprised if Kaido ends up fooling around too much and ends up getting hit with a dust cube. However, I think despite Kaido's attitude, I think his raw stats and his future sight are gonna allow him to prevent this. You see, rather than the 5 Kage who upscale from baseline lightspeed characters, Kaido is able to blitz characters who'd blitz other characters who are capable of doing similar feats to the Kage themselves. Even if we want to say Luffy was using precog here, he tried doing this to Kaido even after surpassing his Gear 4 self twice, and base Kaido was too fast. And Kaido doesn't even stop here, he goes as far as to blitz Gear 5 at one point, which would make the gap in speed even higher. So his speed naturally should be much higher than the Kage, and on top of this, he can see into the future. Meaning if he is messing around, he's going to sense the intent from Ohnoki and see what he's doing and then prevent it from happening. Unironically, the amp from Ohnoki's jutsu wouldn't even close the gap Kaido is able to make between him and Luffy when he's mad and actually trying. Which goes to show you just how much Kaido was playing with this food back in Wano. In terms of raw power too, the strongest members are only really just reaching Multi Continental since Ohnoki had help stopping the meteor, and he doesn't even physically scale to it, he's making the meteor lighter, while Tsunade and the Raikage, even while being amped by Ohnoki, can't even put down Madara. They're cracking Susanoo, sure, but this would just be loose end scaling if I'm being real. And even if we wanted to scale them all to the meteor feat, which they don't, Kaido surviving a moon level punch after being significantly weakened eternally is unironically more impressive than Ohnoki and Gaara stopping this meteor. The supernovas as well were specifically built to take on Kaido, and he still defeated them, while really the only one who maybe had a chance in this whole thing was Ohnoki. But like I said, the speed gap is decent enough for Kaido to not really get hit by particle style unless you think he's just gonna troll the whole time. But at that point, you might as well just think, oh well, if Kaido stands still and does nothing, then the 5 Kage win, which, yeah, if he does nothing, then he loses. But under most circumstances, the 5 Kage are probably getting beat even worse than when they fought Madara, due to Kaido being a more direct physical beast and has no reason to play with them like how Madara did. Madara went out of his way to embarrass his opponent. If Kaido starts getting annoyed, he's just going to want to clunk him.